everyone, I am here today with my worst reads of 2016. Now, in some cases these are just the books that I gave the lowest rating to, but in a couple of cases these are also just books that really disappointed me. I had hoped for better things. So the first book I want to talk to you about today is Octopus Pie Volume 1 by Meredith Gran. This is a graphic novel about a girl named Eve, and it documents as she experiences life and how she works her way through social situations, awkward social situations, and her post-college life. And I thought that this would be really interesting. I thought that it would be one of those sort of enlightening graphic novels where you're like, oh yes, I can really identify with all of this. But no, I was just really bored. I thought it was terrible. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. I gave it 1 star, and if I could have given it less, I would have done. I found it didn't really connect very well. I'd read 30 pages and be like, what has just even happened? What? I don't get any of it. Then I'd be with it again for a little bit, and then I'd go back to being like, what have I just read? I don't know what's going on. It took me several sittings, which is just ridiculous for a graphic novel. It couldn't hold my attention, and it just wasn't my cup of tea, basically. So this was definitely there with one of my worst reads of last year. Another book that I gave 1 star to last year is Swallows and Amazons by Arthur Ransom. And I suppose I shouldn't have expected any better from this, really. It was a free audiobook that I picked up, and as you can often think in this world, you can't get something good for free, very often at least. And this was definitely the case there. I probably shouldn't have expected wonders. I had heard of it though, and that's what made me think, oh, it can't be anything too terrible because I've heard of it. But I hated it. I thought it was absolutely rubbish. I gave it 1 star. I honestly can't remember anything about it. I have nothing good to say about it, and so I'm just gonna stop talking about this one. Next we have a book in a series of which I have decided I am not going to continue on with this series, despite the fact that a lot of people rave about this series on BookTube. I can't stand this author's writing. It clearly isn't my cup of tea. I probably will dodge any of her future works regardless of how amazing people claim it is. And this book is Glass Sword by Victoria Aveyard. I despised this book. Red Queen, which is the first book in the series, I thought that was okay. I gave that one 3 stars. I wasn't overly thrilled with it, but it was okay. But Glass Sword, oh my goodness, the story was just so crap. As it's the second book in the series, obviously can't really talk about what it's about, but this is a series where there are silver bloods and there are red bloods, and there's all the typical YA tropes involved, and it was just bleh. I think it's honestly there among one of the worst books I've ever read. I have no desire to, as I said, continue on with this series. If you love this series, good for you. Next we have a book that just really disappointed me, and that is The Long Earth, which is the first book in the Long Earth series by Terry Pratchett and Stephen Baxter. And I've never picked up a Terry Pratchett book before, and I'd heard so many great things. It's someone I know in real life. It's one of their favourite series of all time, so I was expecting big things from this, and I thought it was meh to average at best. I gave this 2 stars, so, you know, there was promise there, and I have promised the people who recommended me to read it that I will continue on with the series, because maybe it'll grow on me, but I didn't overly enjoy what I've read so far. I thought it was okay. Nothing more, nothing less, and I really hoped for much more from Terry Pratchett, really. And the final book that I want to mention in this video is Someone Like You, which is a collection of Roald Dahl short stories. And it's an adult collection, and I actually read a different adult collection by him later on in the year after this book, and I enjoyed it much more, so I'm not totally put off his adult writing yet. Anyway, I was a massive Roald Dahl fan as a child. I read most of his books, loved them, as clearly a lot of children do. His work is timeless, and I hope that all of his works, all of his children's works at the very least, become classics, because I've enjoyed them all so much. But yeah, Someone Like You was just really disappointing. I'd hoped that I was going to be getting myself a dark and interesting collection of short stories, and just what I got was just a load of crap again. There is that word again. It was just so dull. There were 1 or 2 stories in there that really stood out and I really enjoyed them, but the rest were just really dodgy, weird, long, drawn out stories where at the end you would literally sit and think, I've just wasted 30 minutes of my life reading that short story. That is the biggest load of rubbish I've ever read in my entire life. Some of the stories are really clever, and maybe they were just too clever for me and I didn't appreciate the message that Roald Dahl was trying to bring with them, but for the most part, I just thought that most of this collection was a massive waste of time and I wouldn't recommend this collection to anybody. So yeah, I don't normally like making negative sort of videos, and this is quite a negative filled video, but at the same time I find that there is no such thing as a terrible review when it comes to books. I recently experienced where one of my friends, Aoife, over at Fred Weasley Died Laughing, had read a book and she hated it, and she hated one of the characters, and she gave it 1.5 stars, and that was probably being generous compared to how she felt, but the writing was good. So she told me about that, and that actually made me really want to go and pick that book up, and I did, and I loved it, and I gave it 5 stars. And so I thought, I really hated these books with a passion, and despite the fact that I wouldn't recommend them to anyone, maybe someone will hear about one of these books and it will interest them and they will go and read it and they will enjoy it, and I just think that that is a wonderful thought. So yeah, I hope that this video in some way either entertained you or encouraged you to pick up one of these books, even though I don't recommend it. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see more book reviews and other bookish content from me, and I will see you tomorrow with a book review. Bye bye!